In the second year of my terminal illness, my girlfriend of 10 years, the love of my life, vanished without a trace. When I saw her again, she was a famous actress, a movie star who had found a new love, someone who shared her passions. The only thing she'd forgotten was me. They said they fell in love on set. She was instantly smitten with the character of the boy with cancer. What she couldn't remember was that the character, the boy with cancer, was based on me. In the movie, the boy with cancer didn't make it in the end. Outside the movie, my time was running out too. The traffic on the way to Rose's concert was a nightmare. Security guards were managing the crowds, starting a mile out from the Metro Arena. I was pressed in on all sides, nearly passing out from the lack of air more than once. The whole way there, I clutched the necklace in my hand. The sharp points of the five-pointed star dug into my palm. The pain, the only thing keeping me conscious. Oh my God, Leo Vance is here too. I was quietly singing along when the shipper next to me suddenly shrieked. The concert was almost over, and the final song was Rose's biggest hit, the love ballad Lover. As the chorus began, Leo Vance appeared on the giant screen, dressed in a white tuxedo. He stood beside Rose, who was in a white wedding gown, and the sight took the entire audience's breath away. Leo smiled as he walked toward her, and watching them look just like a bride and groom made my chest tighten. The next moment, Leo knelt before her on one knee and pulled a diamond ring from his pocket. A blush crept across Rose's usually composed face. When she looked at Leo, her eyes filled with a sweet, incredible tenderness. His voice was soft, but it carried through the entire arena. "Rose, I told you I'd propose when I finally made a name for myself," he said. "I've only ever loved one person in my entire life. Will you marry me?" Rose gazed at him through a blur of tears, her hands pressed tightly over her mouth. It took a long moment before she could speak. "Of course I will." With that, Rose threw herself into Leo's arms. He lifted her effortlessly, spinning her around and around. In that instant, the roar of the crowd felt like it could tear the roof off the sky. The young girl beside me grabbed my arm in excitement. "Oh my God, I love them in love at the end of the road. It was so moving. I'm so glad they found their happy ending in real life." But all I could think was, how could she say yes? How could she agree without a flicker of hesitation? How could she? I stumbled out of the crowd and ran to a tree outside the arena. Leaning against the trunk, I retched until the world spun and my mind went numb. An older security guard walked over, holding out a bottle of water. My ghostly pale face seemed to startle him. "Hey kid, you feeling all right?" Tears mixed with bile as I frantically wiped my mouth, my face burning. I'm fine, I choked out. It was just a lie. I felt like I was dying of heartbreak. The guard didn't look convinced and stayed with me until I started to recover. He chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. "Hey, you're not one of those obsessive fans, are you? The kind that can't handle seeing his favorite star get engaged to someone else," he said. "You can't get that invested, son. She's got to have her own life, a husband, kids. Don't get so lost in it that you can't find your way back." I cupped the water bottle in my hands. It was a hot, humid summer night, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I had no idea how to explain. I didn't know how to explain that I was Rose's boyfriend of 7 years, that I was the one who had promised to propose to her, that I was the only person she had ever loved. The guard looked at my pathetic state and sighed, about to say something else. But then I cried out and threw up again. This time, what splattered on the pavement was bright red blood. I didn't get back to St. Michael's until the middle of the night. As I got out of the cab, I looked up and saw a slender figure in white standing under a dim streetlight, a black wheelchair parked beside her. Dr. Chloe Bennett was waiting for me, an annoyed look on her face as she scrolled through her phone. I had no idea how long she'd been there. The moment she saw me, she locked her phone and marched over, looking furious. "We agreed on 3 hours. I covered for you with the department head. Make. You broke your promise." I just stared at her, speechless. I must have looked terrible. Chloe stopped in front of me, her anger faltering. "Your eyes are red," she said, her voice softening. "Have you been crying?" Her question opened the floodgates of my grief. When I finally spoke, my voice was a raw rasp. "I saw Rose today. She's getting married." Chloe looked at me, a helpless expression in her eyes. She was the only person who knew about Rose and me. While I'd been sick, Rose had disappeared on me a few times. The first time it happened, she'd scoffed at me. "You're in this condition, and you're still thinking with your heart." She'd said, "What if she's just gone for good on purpose?" I stubbornly argued back, "No way. Rose isn't like that. I know her. She would never leave me, not now." Chloe tapped a finger against my headboard, a cold, cynical smile on her lips. "This is the ICU," she said. "I've seen families, people who are flesh and blood, turn on each other over money. What do you expect from a girlfriend?" I was too tired to argue with her cynicism, so I just quietly took the pill she offered. Seeing my dismissive attitude, she shot me a look of annoyance before walking away. But the very next day, Chloe had to eat her words. At the crack of dawn, a frantic knocking woke Chloe from her on-call shift. I thought it was a beggar who'd somehow gotten into the hospital, she told me later. Rose was standing there in a worn-out t-shirt under a construction vest, her hair caked with dirt and dust. She looked sheepishly at me through the ICU glass as she spoke to Chloe. I've been working some odd jobs the last few days. I managed to scrape together enough for the hospital bill. It's all paid. As she spoke, Rose pulled a few crumpled bills from her pocket, stammering slightly. I have a little more here. Doctor, when I'm not around, could you please look after my make for me? We'll never be late on the payments, I promise. Chloe was silent for a moment before answering, her voice stiff. Don't worry. He's my first critical care patient. I have no intention of letting him die on my watch. Later, Chloe saw Rose's name on the sign-up sheet for a clinical trial at the hospital. By the time she rushed to the lab, Rose was already in line to have her blood drawn. Chloe grabbed her arm. I've already applied for a grant from the hospital's charity fund for Make. You don't have to do this. Rose looked up, her eyes unfocused and her lips drained of color. They're late paying me at the factory, Rose mumbled. I was afraid it wouldn't be enough. It's enough, Chloe insisted. She looked in Rose's bag and saw it wasn't just one application form. There were several. This wasn't the first time she'd tried this. Chloe dragged Rose to my bedside, her face grim. She watched us cling to each other and cry. Then she laid into Rose. He's sick. If you fall apart, who's going to be here for him? I cupped Rose's face in my hands, my thumb gently tracing the corner of her eye, trying to erase her pain. 2 straight weeks of intense labor had left her eyes bloodshot, but her gaze was locked on me, so focused it was like no one else in the world existed. I just wish I could be the one who's sick, she whispered. For the first time, I lost control, and tears streamed down my face as I caressed her cheek. I'm going to get better, I promised. After that, Rose promised Chloe she would stop earning money by destroying her own health, and then she rushed off to her next shift. After she was gone, Chloe stood by my bed. She looked at the peeled apple and the container of homemade chicken soup Rose had left on my nightstand and was quiet for a long time. I've always been a picky eater, and Rose's cooking was the only thing I could stomach, especially since I'd gotten sick and lost my appetite. To keep me from wasting away during chemo, she would come to the hospital after working late into the night, borrowing the cafeteria kitchen to cook my meals for the next day. I saw her nearly fall asleep on her feet more than once. It broke my heart. I told her the hospital food was fine, but she just looked at me with those serious eyes. Don't worry about me, she said. I can only rest when I know you're okay. Finally, even Chloe had to admit it. She's a good one, she said. You're lucky. My nose was so stuffy that my voice came out as a harsh rasp. I just unlocked my phone and showed Chloe the top trending story on Twitter. The word viral next to it was practically glowing. Chloe tapped on the first video before she had a chance to turn down the volume. A familiar, clear voice, slightly distorted by the cheap phone speaker, filled the room. It was Rose, her voice gentle and smiling. As you all know, I suffered a head injury and lost a lot of my memories. For a long time, it felt like I was living in a fog, just going through the motions, always feeling like I was searching for something vital. She said, it wasn't until I met Leo that I started to feel real again. Chloe immediately closed Twitter. She leaned against the window and took a deep breath. Maybe it's not her make. Maybe you're mistaken, and she's not the same Rose you knew. She said quietly, maybe it's better to just think of your Rose as gone. I knew Chloe was just trying to make me feel better. But how could I be wrong? Rose has a scar on her palm from a machine accident at one of her old jobs. She has a mole on her neck in the exact same spot as one of mine. And that look in her eyes, when she's completely devoted to someone she loves, I knew that looked better than my own reflection. A long while later, my phone suddenly rang. Chloe glanced over as I answered. It was Ms. Albright, the screenwriter. Make, how have you been feeling? I'm calling to thank you. Because of your story, our film won an award. The network wants to film a behind-the-scenes documentary, and the lead actor, Leo Vance, has been very keen to meet you. So tomorrow, the creative team and the network crew are going to come visit you at the hospital. She continued, we've also decided to donate all the proceeds from the documentary to your medical fund. Please, don't say no, okay? The writer for Love at the End of the Road used to be a long-term patient here at St. Michael's. She suffered from severe depression and anxiety. After taking her meds, she'd just sit on a bench in the garden and stare into space. Whenever I was falling apart over Rose's disappearance, I'd hide from Chloe and sit out in that same garden for hours. Back then, I desperately needed someone to talk to. I just never imagined she would turn the story of a cancer patient losing his love into a film with a hopeful, open ending. And I certainly never imagined the lead actress would be Rose herself, discovered by a talent scout after a car accident gave her amnesia. Fate has a twisted sense of humor. I bit down hard on my lip. The thought of seeing Rose again and seeing her with her fiancé, Leo Vance, made my heart feel like it was being torn apart. The screenwriter was still trying to persuade me, appealing to my emotions, but I wasn't listening. In the end, I just mumbled a quiet, okay, and hung up. Rose and I were both orphans. We grew up relying on each other, and we'd never been apart for more than 3 days. But from the day she disappeared to the day I saw her again on television, 3 years had passed. I just missed her so much. The next day, I stood watch by my window. After what felt like an eternity, I saw a large group of people heading into the hospital. I turned to Chloe, my heart pounding, and licked my dry lips. Do I look okay? The night before, she'd bought me a beanie with a wig attached. She'd even gone to the department store to pick out a tinted lip balm for men and had one of the nurses help me with some concealer. That morning, Chloe brought in a bouquet of fragrant jasmine and put in the vase by my bed. I asked her what the flowers were for, and she looked a little flustered. Jasmine is for remembrance, she said, then added quickly, and they just look nice. As I looked in the mirror and saw some color return to my usually gray face, my eyes started to burn. Chloe studied my face for a moment, then reached out to adjust the hair of the wig near my temple. Her voice was unusually gentle. You don't look strange at all. You look handsome, she said. Don't be scared. I'll be here with you. We'll all be here. Just as she finished speaking, her fingers still hovering an inch from my cheek, the door swung open. I scrambled back against my bed in a panic. As the crowd of people flooded in, it felt like a hand was squeezing my throat, cutting off my air. Chloe reacted instantly, helping me sit on the bed with one hand while patting my back with the other. It took a few minutes for me to catch my breath, and when I did, I saw the camera's red recording light was already on. Ms. Albright smiled warmly. Make, you and Dr. Bennett are exactly as I remember. You haven't changed a bit. My eyes instinctively darted to the two people standing behind her. Rose and Leo Vance stood side by side. They weren't touching, but they shared an intimate bubble that no one else could penetrate. A small smile played on Leo's lips as he walked over to my bed. Hello, Make. I wanted to meet you for a long time. I'm glad I finally got the chance. He was even more handsome in person. Even in his simple white t-shirt and jeans, he radiated a kind of clean, bright energy that made me feel shabby and insignificant. I couldn't bring myself to meet his eyes. If Leo Vance was a sunflower in full bloom, then I, after years of battling this disease, wasn't even a withered weed. I was just the dirt beneath his feet, an eyesore. Leo casually put an arm around my shoulders, like we were old friends. Make, have you seen our movie yet? He asked. I kept my eyes downcast. Many times I whispered. To get into character, I spent 2 weeks observing patients in the oncology ward. I even dieted for a month to lose weight. Leo glanced at the bony wrist sticking out of my oversized sleeve and chuckled. You with your metabolism. You probably have no idea how jealous I was. I felt a flush of shame and turned my head away, pulling my hand back under the blanket. I didn't want Rose to see me looking like a skeleton. Rose must have noticed my discomfort because she came around to the other side of the bed. Hi, Make. I'm Rose, she said softly. Leo and I went to St. Jude's Shrine the other day and got a prayer card for you. We're wishing you a speedy recovery. When you're better, we hope you can come to our wedding. Her voice was so soft, so gentle, as if she were afraid of startling me. But her kindness just made the pain worse, like a dull knife twisting in my heart. My lips parted several times, wanting to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't come out. Rose took a small, laminated card from her pocket. It was perfectly flat and pristine, without a single crease. Ms. Albright, the writer, suddenly spoke up. Make, after I told Rose your story, she donated her entire salary from the film to the hospital the very next day. This was while she was still in a lawsuit with her old agency, completely broke and millions in debt. The director and I both told her to sort out her own life first, that she could help you later when she was more established. She added, but she insisted. She said that every time she read the parts of the script about your character, her heart ached for you, and that's what allowed her to give such a powerful performance. Even the director chimed in. Rose is a wonderful person. She always was. She was good to everyone, and that just made it harder. Rose didn't deny it. She just looked at me and said, your story made my career. I should be thanking you. I was silent for a moment before I reached out and took the card from her. Rose pressed her lips together and gently placed the card on the tray table in front of me. It was only when I saw the pity in her eyes that I realized my own hands were trembling. Leo spoke up suddenly. Make, when you and Dr. Bennett get married, make sure you invite us. I didn't understand what he was talking about. Leo continued, a wistful look on his face. When I first read the script, I was so moved. I took the role immediately because I was so envious of your relationship with Dr. Bennett. I hoped that one day I could find a love that was so loyal and true. He said, I never thought I'd find someone like that. But thankfully, your story led me to Rose. I heard you're a fan of roses, so I brought you an autographed picture. He took a photo from his assistant with a bright smile. It was a picture of him and Rose together. In the photo, Rose was making a silly face at the camera while Leo looked on, his eyes crinkling with affection, leaning in as if he was about to kiss her cheek. As I stared at it, Leo's voice faded into a loud, piercing roar in my ears. Chloe must have sensed something was wrong. She pushed her way through the crowd and grabbed my wrist. Her voice was sharp and cold as she raised it to be heard. I haven't seen your film, and I don't understand artistic license. Meg is my patient. I'd appreciate it if you didn't confuse your movie roles with reality. He needs to rest. If there's nothing else, I think we should wrap this up. Chloe looked past the camera at Ms. Albright and the director. Are there any other questions? The crew exchanged uncertain glances before the interviewers started asking some standard questions. The whole time, Rose sat in a nearby chair, her eyes fixed on me, a thoughtful expression on her face. As the interview wound down, the host asked if I had any last wishes. I took a deep breath, met Rose's gaze, and saw the surprise in her eyes. I'd like to talk to her for a minute, I said quietly. Just for a moment. Chloe cleared most of the crew out, saying the room was too crowded for a patient. Soon, it was just the cameraman, Rose, and Leo. I stared at their joined hands and found myself struggling for breath with every word. Rose, I began, I've always wondered, what was it like for you during the time you couldn't remember? Rose seemed taken aback. I woke up in a hospital. The first person I saw was a talent agent. He paid my medical bills, found me an apartment, helped me get a new ID. I couldn't remember anything about my past, so I just sort of drifted into signing a contract with his agency. She said, for some reason, the only thing I could think about back then was that I had to make money. But I had the worst luck. I worked myself to the bone, taking any role, any commercial, any reality show gig I could get, and my paycheck was only $3,000 a month. I went to the agency and found out they'd locked me into a 10-year contract. If I wanted out, I'd have to pay $20 million in damages. That whole time was... Rose gave a bitter laugh that made my heart ache. It was a nightmare. What does it feel like to have amnesia? I asked. It feels like you don't have a past, like you're a stranger to everything and everyone. She paused. Except, sometimes I have dreams, fragments of being in a hospital, and it feels like someone is always there, calling my name. Her words made my heart pound against my ribs. I opened my mouth, an overwhelming urge washing over me. Rose, the truth is Leo's eyes were locked on me. The second I started to speak, he cut me off. Make, I hear you're a big fan of Rose's, he said quickly. You must be so happy for her, seeing all her success. I froze for a second, then slowly nodded. Rose didn't seem to notice my panic. She looked lost in her own memories. She only snapped out of it when Leo gently put his arm around her. Rose turned her head to look at Leo, her eyes soft with a quiet, restrained love. Then I was cast in love at the end of the road. The director helped me get a lawyer to fight my old agency, and he even helped me find my birth parents. She said, my life didn't really turn around until I met Leo. Then she turned back to me. I'd like to hear your story, too. You and Dr. Bennett aren't actually a couple, are you? My story. My throat felt tight. I didn't know how to begin to tell her story. My story was romanticized for the movie. The real version isn't very interesting. It's just, there was someone who loved me very much, and I loved her more than anything. I said, but then one day she was gone. Rose frowned. Have you tried to find her? She was like me, an orphan. The home we grew up in, St. Catherine's, closed down years ago. The director retired and moved out of state. Besides me, there's no one left who even remembers us together. I explained, and since we were just dating, I couldn't file a missing persons report. I went to the police, but they just gave me their sympathy and told me to be strong, that I'd meet someone else. I looked down, a sharp sting in my nose. But I know there will never be anyone better than her. The cameraman, sensing my emotional state, spoke up. You could tell us her name. We could help you find her. I said nothing. The urge to tell them the truth was a thorn in my throat, making my chest ache. I looked at Leo, his arm wrapped around Rose's waist. She was leaning into him with a peaceful, contented smile. It wasn't acting. It was real happiness. Leo chose that moment to intervene. Okay, let's not dwell on the past. Only happiness from now on, Rose. I'll always be by your side. He then turned to me, smiling. Make, I hope you get well soon. If you need anything at all, just let my assistant know. and I'll take care of it. He said, "We're getting married soon, and we have your story to thank for bringing us together. Can you give us your blessing?" His words forced me to swallow everything I wanted to say, the broken pieces cutting me up inside. I met Rose's concerned gaze and had to take several ragged breaths before I could speak. I wish you. I fought against the waves of dizziness and suffocation, using every last bit of my strength to force the words out. I wish you a life of peace and happiness. May you get everything you've ever wanted. I love Rose. How could I wish her a lifetime of happiness with another man? It was only after they left that I realized my mouth tasted of blood. I'd been so tense, I had bitten through my own tongue. Chloe came back into the room. She looked at me, her expression clouded. "Why didn't you just tell her?" I buried my face in my blanket. Being with me would only drag her down. She finally has a bright future. I can't be selfish enough to pull her back into this darkness with me. I mumbled. All I want is for her to be happy. That's enough. After the interview, I spent all my time, day and night, watching Rose's movies and concert footage. My health got worse and worse. It got so bad that Chloe started coming to my room at 10 p.m. every night to take my phone away. Even without it, I'd lie awake until dawn. After my last few scans, I saw Chloe frowning at my chart before taking it to consult with senior doctors and her old professors. The nurse who came to change my Ford drip looked like she wanted to say something, but just left a bowl of washed cherries on my nightstand instead. Whenever I asked Chloe what was going on, she'd just tell me everything was fine and not to worry. But for the next few nights, the light in her office stayed on all night long. I caught a glimpse of some papers she tried to hide from me, covered in dense medical jargon I couldn't understand. A strange sense of calm washed over me. When I first got sick, I was terrified. I was scared of dying young, of leaving so many things undone. But now, death felt different. Maybe it was the best possible outcome. A month later, the network aired the finished documentary. I never expected to see my own name trending on Twitter. Hashtag Make an Imperfect Ending. I clicked the hashtag and saw that some big influencer account had edited clips of me from the documentary into a sort of video farewell, and it had gone viral for being so tragic. With some PR push behind it, everyone online was talking about how amazing Rose's performance in the movie was. They said the way I looked at her was so full of emotion. It was as if I was looking past her, seeing the ghost of my lost love. And so, in the comments, people started a campaign to find the girl I had talked about. I thought I'd been so vague, so careful, but someone figured out I was at St. Michael's. Then someone else commented that they remembered seeing a young woman who was always by my bedside back then. I was terrified their digging would destroy the quiet life I had left. More than anything, I was afraid Rose would find out the truth. If she knew, the guilt would haunt her forever. I was already dying. I couldn't let her waste the rest of her life on me. So I made a burner account and left a comment on the network's post, asking people to stop searching. I said I had moved on and didn't care anymore, and that they shouldn't waste their time on me. But that only made people feel even more sorry for me. Finally, a photo surfaced. It was just a blurry shot of a girl's back and a glimpse of her profile in a hospital hallway. A night nurse from St. Michael's had posted it on her private Twitter account years ago. The caption read, "I've seen people walk out on their sick partners in this hospital without a second glance. But I've also seen love, like this girl who never left her boyfriend's side, night after night." It ended with, "True love will always make me cry." Someone thought the girl in the photo looked familiar. People started comparing the silhouette, zooming in on details, following every possible lead. Eventually, they found a promotional still from Love at the End of the Road, showing Rose from behind in a hospital hallway. It was a match. Then they found the profile shot. The young woman's face was unmistakably a younger Rose. I deleted my Twitter account immediately, hoping to escape the online storm for what little time I had left. Without telling Chloe, I went to the head of the department and said I wanted to take a short trip to get away for a bit. He was an older man with white hair who pushed his glasses up his nose and looked at me kindly. "Chloe is determined to cure you, you know. She even postponed a fellowship in Germany for you." He said, "She's the best resident I've ever had. With her working so hard, I really shouldn't let you go anywhere." But he added, "I think getting away for a bit might do you some good." And so, with an empty suitcase and the SIM card removed from my phone, I started walking toward the train station, planning to head for the coast. But before I got there, a black car pulled up and blocked my path. The man in the back wore expensive sunglasses that covered half his face, but I recognized Leo Vance instantly. His assistant got out and invited me into the car. I just stood there, frozen. Finally, Leo's mouth curved into a smile. It wasn't his usual warm, friendly smile. This one was cold and distant. "I know Rose was your girlfriend," he said. "I think we should talk, don't you?" I finally moved, getting into the car. We drove for over an hour, out to the suburbs. When the car stopped, Leo turned to me. He didn't say a word, but his assistant and the driver knew to get out and give us privacy. We were alone in the car. He studied me through his sunglasses for a long moment before he spoke. "I actually heard your name a long time ago," he said slowly. "At the wrap party for the movie, Rose got drunk. She fell asleep in my lap, holding my hand, but she kept saying a name over and over. Later, I was talking to Ms. Albright, and I put the name and your story together. But I kept telling myself it was just a coincidence." He said, "The second you spoke at the hospital, I knew. Do you have any idea how terrified I was that you were going to tell her the truth? You know her better than anyone. If she finds out she betrayed you, that she fell in love with me, it will destroy her." Leo took off his sunglasses as he spoke. I could see the dark circles under his eyes. His perfect celebrity image was cracked. When I first met Rose, she had terrible insomnia. On set, she was so quiet it was unnerving. She wouldn't talk to anyone, but she'd light up a little if the conversation turned to music. I knew I didn't get music, that I didn't get that part of her, but I wanted to try. I know part of why she fell for me is because I played a version of you, because I reminded her of you. But my feelings for her were never just for a role. I've never loved anyone the way I love her. I love her just as much as you do. His voice rose with emotion on the last sentence, cracking with a desperate edge. His words were like knives, each one twisting deeper into me. I just looked at him quietly, my head spinning, a pounding pain in my temples like someone was hitting me. I'd seen the fan pages for him and Rose online. There was one popular, lengthy post that I remembered. The author wrote beautifully about how devoted Leo was to Rose. It told the story of how, when they met, she was a complete unknown, and he was already a huge star. He wasn't afraid of the scandal. He went public with their relationship, even paid off her multi-million-dollar contract for her. The media called him a fool in love for months. Then Love at the End of the Road came out, and Rose became an even bigger star than him, her original songs topping the charts. But they stayed together, their careers never driving them apart. The proposal at the concert was Rose's answer to it all. They were each other's rock, proving that real love could survive in the toxic world of celebrity. The post ended with the author saying if Leo and Rose ever broke up, she'd give up on love completely. Every word of that post was a blow to the chest. Leo's love for her was epic, a grand public romance. It made my history with Rose feel small and worthless. If I broke them up, I'd be the villain of the century. I even started to wonder if the universe had planned it this way. The accident, the amnesia. Also, she could be free of me, free of her burden, and find someone better. We sat in silence. Finally, Leo put his sunglasses back on, hiding his red-rimmed eyes. I've already paid to have all that stuff scrubbed from the internet. Rose is on location for a new movie. She doesn't know anything about it. If you decide you want to tell your story, I can't stop you. I won't do anything illegal to you. I saw the way you looked at her that day. I know you still love her. That's why I was such a jerk to you, and I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I'll get on my knees and beg you if I have to. He pleaded. But if you really love her, if you really want what's best for her, you'll keep this buried. He was right. Even if I told the world, told Rose who I was, what would happen? The public would side with him. His love was grand and selfless. He was the hero who saved her. I would just be the pathetic ghost from her past. And Rose would be dragged down with me, her career ruined. She was too kind, too gentle. The truth would tear her apart, caught between Leo and me. I didn't say anything for a long time. "I heard you were planning on taking a trip," Leo said after a while. He took a signed, blank check from his wallet and placed it on my knee. "I don't know where you want to go. I don't travel much myself. But please take this. Go somewhere nice. And when you come back, we'll get you the best doctors. Don't worry about the cost." "I don't need it," I interrupted him quietly. "You don't need to feel guilty. You don't owe me anything." I felt his breath catch in his throat. In that moment, he must have thought all was lost. But I just leaned back against the seat, exhausted. I closed my eyes, feeling utterly drained, wanting nothing more than to sleep. I was so still that Leo kept checking to see if I was breathing, placing his fingers under my nose until he felt a faint puff of air and could relax. After a long time, I finally managed to move my fingers. "Can you have your driver take me somewhere?" I asked. "There's one place I need to see." By the time the car pulled into the small, rural town, it was late afternoon. The sunset painted the sky in shades of red, casting a golden glow over the distant mountains. Leo watched me get out and start walking without a backward glance. He hesitated, then made a move to follow me. I turned back suddenly and gave him a small smile. "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself. There's no need. I don't have much time left anyway." I pointed to a small, red-roofed building on the top of the hill. "That's St. Catherine's. It's the orphanage where Rose and I grew up. It's the last piece of our past that we shared, and now I'm the only one who remembers. I said, "This is all I have left. Please, leave me alone with it." Leo stared at me for a second, then looked away. His voice was thick with emotion when he finally spoke. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. It had rained the night before, and the path up the hill was a mess of mud and ruts. Every step on the uneven ground took all the strength I had. I used to be strong. It was always Rose who was the delicate one. When we were kids, our school was at the bottom of the hill, and the orphanage was at the top. Every day, we'd have to walk down at dawn and wouldn't get back until late at night. Halfway up the return climb, Rose would always whine for me to give her a piggyback ride. And every time, I'd laugh and crouch down so she could climb on, and I'd carry her the rest of the way home. Every single day for years. I thought I'd collapse after 20 feet, but somehow I pushed through, practically crawling on my hands and knees by the end. I finally reached the top. The orphanage was derelict. The lock on the gate was so rusted it broke apart in my hand. I pushed the door open and walked through the familiar first-floor hallway, making my way up to the attic. Taped to the wall in the corner was a crayon drawing I'd made as a kid. A big house with 2 stick figures standing out front. I'd been at St. Catherine's since I was a baby. The director told me that when they found me, my body was covered in severe burns. They treated them with herbal remedies for years, and the scars didn't really start to fade until I was a teenager. By then, of course, I was too old to be adopted. Rose was different. On adoption days, she would always find a place to hide, just so she could stay with me. But when her friend got adopted, one by one, she'd come up here to the attic and cry, wondering why everyone else had a mom and a dad and a home, and we had nothing. I'd always find her, and we'd pinky swear. I promised her that one day I'd make a lot of money and buy her a big house, a home just for the 2 of us. I touched the old drawing and slowly sank to the floor, my tears making clean tracks in the thick dust. The first home Rose and I ever had was a tiny studio apartment. It wasn't much, but it was warm and it was ours. Every day when I came home from work, I could smell dinner cooking as I passed the kitchen window. Rose would be there, waiting for me. We'd known each other for 20 years, been a couple for 7, always working toward our future. We pooled every dollar we made. When we finally saved up our first $10,000, I took the money I'd made from my night job delivering food and bought her a ring. I proposed to her in that tiny apartment, under the light of the moon and a single bare bulb. "Rose," I'd said, "things are finally looking up at work. We'll be able to buy our own place soon. Just give me 1 more year, okay? I promise. When I've made a name for myself, I'm going to marry you." She stared at the ring on her finger. The diamond was so small you could barely see it sparkle, but to me, it shone brighter than any star. Her eyes and cheeks were flushed with emotion as she nodded, tears streaming down her face. She didn't hesitate for a second. I will remember that moment until the day I die. I thought after 25 years of hardship, my life was finally turning around. But then I got laid off. I was packing up my desk when I collapsed. The diagnosis was terminal cancer. Rose quit the music job. She loved to work 3 menial jobs a day just to take care of me. I suddenly remembered a night, long before, when she was lying in my arms. She joked that a producer told her she had the voice and the look to be a star, but she turned him down, saying she hated the entertainment industry. But seeing her on that stage, so radiant, so completely in her element, I realized the truth. That smile back then hadn't been dismissive. It had been full of regret for a dream she had to give up. I've been holding her back, even then. But it's okay now. She's found her real parents, a wealthy, educated family. She's found a handsome man who loves her. She has millions of fans who adore her. She has a future. It's good that Rose is finally on the path she was always meant for. Our paths were never meant to cross for long. I started to laugh, for no reason at all. I laughed until tears soaked the crumpled drawing in my hand. I didn't get back to the city until just before dawn. And once again, Chloe was waiting for me. She was standing right where I'd left her, at the entrance to the hospital. Under the streetlight, she was wearing the same white blouse from the other day, the sleeves rolled up. Her hair was a mess, falling into her eyes. She looked like a fallen aristocrat. I knew she came from a wealthy family and was a notorious neat freak. I'd never seen her wear the same outfit twice. When she saw me, her expression shifted, but she didn't say anything. Finally, she just asked quietly, "I thought you were taking a trip. Why are you back so soon?" She added, "You left your phone on your bed. You got a call." I took the phone. It was an unsaved number, but there was a text. "Hi, this is Rose. I'm sorry to bother you. I've been thinking a lot, and I really want to help you find the person you talked about. Love at the End of the Road was such an important project for me, and maybe I'm still too invested in the story, but I want your real life to have a happy ending too. If you'd like my help, you can call me at this number." It's my personal cell. It wasn't her old number. She must have gotten a new one after the accident, when she had to replace all her lost ID. I still remembered her old number. We had picked out matching ones. I stared at the words on the screen. They were just pixels, but I could almost hear her voice, soft and careful, as if she'd spent a long time composing the message. My eyes burned, and, without thinking, I hit dial. Thankfully, it rang and rang with no answer. The hope that had flared in my chest died out. Chloe just looked at me, shook her head slightly, and took my wrist to lead me back inside. She was more talkative than usual. There's a research team in Boston that's had a major breakthrough with your type of cancer. They've actually cured people. My professor and I are flying out there next week for a conference. It won't be long, Meg. I'm going to cure you, she said. And when you're better, I can finally... Her voice started to sound fuzzy. I stared at the flickering fluorescent light above her head, but I could hear the genuine excitement in her voice. For some reason, I wanted to smile back, but the trip to the orphanage had taken everything out of me. Her voice faded away completely. Her footsteps stopped. She turned to look at me, her eyes wide with a sudden, sharp fear. I'd never seen Chloe lose her composure like that before. I glanced down. Blood was pouring from my nose, soaking the front of my shirt. Chloe half-carried me onto a gurney, and she and a team of nurses rushed me toward the ER, moving so fast the hallway became a blur. Chloe gripped my hand, her voice a desperate shout in my ear. Meg, don't you dare fall asleep. Stay with me. I felt confused. I didn't sleep. Last night, I mumbled. Climb the hill. I'm so tired. Suddenly, my vision cleared for a second, and I focused on her. Chloe, I asked, am I dying? She was standing in front of the window, blocking the morning sun, and her face was just a silhouette. I thought I saw her eyes glisten. Bullshit, she snapped. She was always so calm, so professional. It was the first time I'd ever seen her lose it, the first time I'd ever heard her curse. She'd always been good to me, kinder than just a doctor to a patient. I wanted to smile at her, to ask if she felt something more for me, but the gulf between our worlds was too wide. She probably just felt sorry for me. I was completely spent. Even blinking felt like too much effort. In a haze, I could vaguely hear Chloe still talking, and the sound of a phone ringing somewhere nearby. And then there was only silence. Rose finished her all-night shoot just as the sun was coming up. When she checked her phone, she saw a missed call. It was right above one from Leo. It was from Meg. Without a second thought, she called the number back. She tried 2, 3 times, but it wouldn't connect. It was only just after 6 a.m. Maybe he was sleeping. Ever since the interview, Rose couldn't get the image of Meg's pale, handsome face out of her mind. It was like a splinter she couldn't remove. Sometimes, even when she was with Leo, her thoughts would drift back to that hospital room and the faint scent of jasmine. The movie had affected her deeply. She'd cried just reading the script, and it had taken her months to shake the character after filming Wrapped. That's why she wanted to help the Real make find his happy ending. Maybe if he found happiness, she could finally let go of love at the end of the road and move on with her own life. Since the call wouldn't go through, Rose paused, then sent a text to Leo. He called her back instantly. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been up all night. You're done for the day? He asked. Yeah, she said. We should be wrapped in a few more days. Leo was quiet for so long, his breathing ragged over the line, that Rose thought the connection was bad. Finally, he spoke, his voice trembling slightly. Rose, can I ask you something? When you said yes, when you agreed to marry me, was it because you really love me? Or was it because you couldn't separate me from the character in the movie? Or is it just because I helped you, and you feel like you owe me this? What's wrong? Rose asked, taken aback. If I didn't love you, why would I be with you? But can you tell the difference? He pressed. Do you love me, Leo Vance? Or do you love the character I played? She thought the answer would be simple, but when she really considered it, she didn't know what to say. So she chose the only answer she could. I love you. Hearing that seemed to reassure him, and his mood lightened. They talked for a little while longer before hanging up. Rose leaned back against her headboard and looked at the photo she kept on her nightstand. It was one of Leo's promotional stills from Love at the End of the Road. He'd lost 20 pounds for the role, and in the baggy hospital gown, he looked paper-thin, so fragile it seemed a strong breeze could break him. The photographer had caught him just as the director called his name, and he was looking back over his shoulder. Right after that photo was taken, they filmed the first scene, where the main character is about to be taken into surgery, possibly for the last time. Rose had to cling to Leo, who was still practically a stranger to her, and she sobbed her heart out. She couldn't stop crying until the director called cut and came to comfort her. After that day, whenever she saw Leo, she felt a strange flutter in her chest, a constant, low-level anxiety that he might disappear. It was why she couldn't stop thinking about him, even after the movie was finished. Rose looked at the photo, tracing the outline of his face with her finger, and felt a pang of guilt. Ever since she'd started this new film, Leo had been acting so insecure. She decided that as soon as filming was done, she would make it up to him. A little while later, Rose turned off the lights and got into bed, but she just tossed and turned. Her body was exhausted, but her mind wouldn't shut off. She felt a strange tension, like a wire pulled too tight inside her. She remembered a sleep app she used to use back when her depression and anxiety were at their worst. She downloaded it again and started looking for some white noise to play. But her fingers slipped, and she accidentally opened the app's sleep recording archive. It was a recording from 3 years ago. In it, her own voice was thick with tears, broken and desperate. "Make, just hold on. I'm going to have the money soon." She sobbed. "Make, we're going to get you better, I promise. Make."